Well, hello there, Apple Bites. This is your Apple Bite, written Ralph talking to you straight from our show here, Apple Bites, where we take out a bite out of the apple and share it with you. And of course, we got a lot of things happening today, and a lot of people showing up here today. Brandon, and of course, Jeremy, and of course, Roman Tony. And we're
Hey.
hot off the heels of Kaiju Brooklyn, where we had a blast. And it was an interesting convention because it's a kaiju convention, so it was monstrous, folks. And we had a blast there. If anything, check out the Instagram, and you'll see a lot of bits and pieces about how much fun we had at Kaiju Brooklyn. And we're already looking forward to Kaiju Brooklyn 3. That's how good it was.
Oh. Yeah, I saw it. It looked like you guys had fun, man. I wish I could be there, man. I was just a little under the weather. And I'm still a little nasally, but you know. But,
yeah. Tony had to get us a little better because he ended up getting one of those summer colds. It was the worst cold in the world.
I know, right? Everybody's out with tank tops, so I'm like, chew. It's great.
Oh, man. So let's start this thing off. Brandon, why don't you start off? Tell the people who you are. Tell them all the good stuff. Give them the spiel.
I'm so nervous. Why would you start with me? All right. I'm Brandon Jones. I live in Arkansas. I don't know if anybody knows where that's at. It's south of New York. And so I own a comic shop. I run a convention business, and I have a new comic coming out, that's it right there, The Evil That Men Do. And yes, that is Iron Maiden and Shakespeare together in that title. A lot of 80s metal influence in the story, and kind of like Shakespeare too. So, but you know, there's no soliloquies and all that. We're not going to break into Hamlet. The holding a skull might actually be kind of cool. But anyway, so this comic's coming out right now. It's in pre-launch on Kickstarter. So we just need all the, sign up to get notified people that we can. So Black Box, who is running this whole thing, will launch it. And because I'm hoping to debut the comic at my convention on their DecemberCon 27th, 28th of July. So that's kind of the goal. The Demetrius and I
that's pretty close. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I said. I was like, that's the goal, dude. Make it happen. And he was like, no text back. So anyway.
You know how he is, and he'll work his butt off to make it happen.
Oh no, that guy! I think he said yes to this because I harassed him for a year, and he was like, "You got me." I was like, "Don't make me drive up to New York," and he was like, "Fine, don't come to New York. Let's just do it." So,
he's a great guy. We love having him on the show. He's so much fun, and we always run into him at the conventions. Black Box, I love the company because it actually cares about indie creators, writers, artists, and it puts you guys out there. And he's not, I feel like Black Box is exactly like Marvel and DC, where they have all these different books coming together under one banner.
Oh yeah, they have so many great artists and so many great titles coming out and that they've released. So it's quite an honor that he actually said yes to that, because he read the first issue and he was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And I was like, "Okay, well, cool, let's do it." So here we are doing it.
I gotta say, like, as soon as I saw the cover to this book, which is a beautiful cover, I felt like my heavy metal roots kicking in, going, I feel like there's a heavy metal song attached to this.
Well, I mean, The Evil That Men Do is it's a Maiden song, but
I know
there's so much. Like, I did a bunch of promos with like Metallica Battery, For Whom the Bell Tolls. I mean, that's all. I was born in '76, so my childhood was 80s metal, hair, but MTV, of course, and new wave.
I know what you're talking about because I'm 71.
There you go. You know what I'm saying? Then, yeah. So all that comes together. This is actually in the grunge era too. So the daughter is in the flannel. She's got the whole grunge look going. So I try to capture that whole vibe in the book too.
You did a good job because it completely feels 90s.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that credit to that goes to the artist, but yeah. He like we said in the green room. Can I say that, or is that I already said it? I'm sorry.
No. That's the whole point of all the conversation in the green room, is so we can say, like we were talking about in the green room.
So, as the Gen Z say, he understood the assignment. So there you go.
I gotta say, let's play this little video here because I know our Black Box friend did a good job of putting it together, right?
Oh yeah, it's a great video. I was very impressed.
Let's see if it will play.
Bam! Woo!
There you go.
Ooh. Those leaves that came out, that was surprising. Hey, what's this? Like,
No, that last image was the Ryan Gary Brown variant. I don't know, you guys know who Ryan Gary Brown is. I did a lot of, I think he's like zombie something on Insta, did a lot of Ninja Turtles and exclusive covers. So he actually did that cover with very little information because I was like, I can't tell you much. This is it. And he was like, how about this? And I was like, yes. So, yeah.
Do you know when he's planning to do the Kickstarter kickoff?
Well, that's what we talked about. I want to start at 100 and he wants to go to 200. So maybe we can compromise at 150. Because I know, because I'm like,
You guys want to wait till you get to a certain amount of followers.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was at 100 at first, and then he texted me. He's like, "Let's do 200." I was like, "Dude, you saying my book sucks? Like, what are you trying to say, dude?"
Well, I understand what he's trying to do because the more people you have on Notify, the better start you have.
Oh yeah, no, I get it. I just like to give him a hard time because he's not driving down to Jonesboro to do anything, you know. Like,
And that's what we try hard. We tell people all the time, like, one of the easiest ways to support these indie comics is to get onto the Notify page and follow them, or do the Notify, hit the button, because it really helps out when the project starts. It puts you in a whole different algorithm.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. So that's, I mean, I'm even incentivizing that at the store. I've got flyers made up. I'm doing a contest for the locals, whoever signs up, that can win some stuff on launch. So. I'm doing everything I can here to get this up. So
that's right. You have your own store, right?
Yeah, I do have a comic shop, B&B Collections. It's in Jonesboro. We do comic box. We do pull lists through the mail. We have an eBay store. We do conventions. Of course, I'm an owner in a convention. So yeah, I don't sleep much, and I have a lot of stress.
You don't sleep much.
Self-employment's awesome. I love my accountant. No, I don't.
But at least you're trying to make it into a place where you can have something happening and enjoy the people and the county, dude. I feel like because the growth of the comic store is to become part of the community. That's what comic stores need to be now. Because before it was a whole other thing. But if you're not evolving, if you're not becoming something that the community can use, you're kind of lost, and sooner or later you're going to fall apart. You agree or disagree?
Oh no, I mean that's exactly what we do at the store. We used to do store events every month, have guests in, but that became such a labor. So, but we do a lot of community stuff. We reach out, we're involved. So absolutely, you cannot be that gatekeeper comic shop, that cliche place that no one wants to go to. We're very family driven. Bring your kids in.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite things is when someone brings their teenager, kid, or whatever, and they're like, "I read this comic when I was your age," and they buy it for them. And they have this moment where they get to share, the parents in this nostalgia, and the kids get something new. Because let's face it, if kids don't start picking up comics, we're all going to age out.
Yeah.
Because manga is what the Zoomers love, and so we try our best to integrate the manga crowd too, of course, because I like manga. I love anime.
Yeah,
we can do both, right? I mean, why not? It didn't have to be one.
Before it was gatekeeping because they would never put manga or anime or any of that stuff in their store. It was like, this is pure comics. I'm like, dude, it's all related. It's all comics.
That really is, yeah. As some folks say, they're backwards comics, right? Because that's what I live in Arkansas. Cut me some slack, but we have a whole section of the store that's manga and anime pop statues and stuff. So we do really well with that, and I'm proud of that.
It's good to hear that you're actually moving and helping with the community and being what a comic book store should be.
Yeah, the ones that are still doing well are like that. They're like just used to be about comics, just delve into other things like tabletop gaming, games, Funkos and all that stuff. Even if I don't like them, I'm like, hey man, keep the around. So,
yeah, we don't do the tabletop gaming. There's a store here that does that. I mean, there's like 100,000 people here, so there's not a whole lot of room to step on each other's toes. So we tend to stay out of their way, and we work together and we promote each other's events. So
at least you're working.
I see that too. Like a lot of comic stores that are near, like some tabletop gaming stores, like they're in the same vicinity. I see that too. But that's good. It's good,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you got to. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, what's the point? Yeah, because if you isolate yourself, you're just going to down and out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There goes Black Box Comics. What's up, everyone?
Hey.
We were just saying that you should be here with us on the show.
Is that really Demetrius, though? That's the question we need to ask. It's one of his kids. He got his phone. He's on.
That's just temp, you know.
Oh man. Black Box Comics is fantastic, folks. They do a lot of great books, and I can see this being completely up their alley. You know, and I really, I'm excited to see what you do with this. As soon as you are ready to launch, you can come back on the show.
I appreciate that. I'll hit you up, and we'll do a thing. So thank you.
Oh, definitely. You know, I know when you're before. When you're doing the Notify, trying to get the word out there, you can only say so much until you start to release the book, and then you can start saying a bunch of other stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean, I already got a text from him months ago. I got the Kevin Feige text. Don't do that. So I had to delete. You know, but I'm like, what else do I need to ask forgiveness for? He was like, ha ha, and I'm like, okay.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
still here though, so I guess that's
yeah, sounds completely like him.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, you have to keep some mystery going.
Oh yeah, and we got to keep the tension up, right? As they say.
Yeah, because the best way to keep the attention is to reveal things little by little by little by little.
Oh, it's a mystery, right? That's why people love murder mysteries and Scream. That's why Scream's so good. Who's in the mask? I don't know. It's like 8 different people in the room, but you know.
Sometimes it's 3 of them.
That's true. Yeah. Who knows in the next movie?
That's always a good question. You know, what's going on with this one and that one? I don't know. I saw the first movie, I saw the second movie, and then after that, I was like, okay, I'm done with this.
I haven't seen any of the new ones. The last one I saw was the last one never came out back in the day. I haven't seen any of the new ones though. Are they any good? Or?
The last one's really good, I think.
Yeah, really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard about the last one, at least, that it was pretty decent. That they actually stepped out of their box.
I mean, it's in New York, so you know you get that scene that's in all the commercials at the bodega with them, you know, with the guy in the mask toting around the shotgun and everything. So yeah, mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, and Ghostface never used the gun before, so that was the first. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it's in New York. He has to amp it up, man, because you know somebody's gonna get him. You got to have the same weapons the other guys have here in New York.
It was like Leprechaun in the Hood. You gotta be tough. You gotta get a little tougher.
It's me. You're all awesome. Thank you for your support.
Not attempt.
So Dimitri says it's him. Dimitri says it's him. So we'll believe it's him. All right, Jeremy, why don't you tell the people who you are and all the good stuff? Explain everything and give them your spiel. Go for it.
All right. So yeah, my name is Jeremy Whitley. I am a comic book writer. I've been doing this professionally for about 12 years now. I think a lot of people that will know me either from the book I broke in with, which was my sort of creator-owned book called Princeless, which I did with Action Lab way back in the day for several years, or from The Unstoppable Wasp, which I did with Marvel, just a couple of years ago. In addition to that, I've done a bunch of other stuff. I've worked with, IDW. I've worked with Dynamite. I've worked with Titan quite a bit. I've been all over the place. Right now, what I'm working on is we have a book coming out in August from Maverick, which is part of Mad Cave. It's a YA romance book. It's called Navigating with You. And what I love about this book is it's a romance book that has to do with like people falling in love over manga, over comics, the same way that I feel like a lot of my friends, a lot of people that I meet at conventions have. It's about two people who transfer into a school from different places. They're both new kids, and they meet and sort of bond over this comic that they both had read when they were younger. And they decide that they're going to start a book club so that they can find the rest of these volumes of this manga that neither of them have ever read. And slowly, over the course of reading these books together and going through all the other things going on in their life, the two of them end up falling in love over the course of the story. So it's a lot of fun. I think like as a writer, it's something that I've seen a lot, working in comics, people coming up to my table like, oh yeah, I met my girlfriend reading this book, or, but this comic book shop, this Comic Con, we cosplayed together, we, did this stuff together. And I think so many of us like fall in love over that same nerdy stuff. I wanted to tell a story that was sort of in that same vein.
I like what you're doing. I like the way it's going. I love the way you were saying in the green room, you broke it down, where you have the two different styles of art working with the story. It's interesting.
Yeah, it was cool. I think once we started doing it, I was like, well, obviously we have to have some of the manga that they're reading in here, because you always want, like, whenever somebody's reading or watching something in a book or a movie, you're like, oh, but that does sound good. Actually, I want to see what that's like.
Exactly.
So we threw in pages of the book they're reading in the story, and it is all drawn by the same artist. My artist on this, Cassio Riviero, who is like, he's amazing. Because I was like, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do two completely different styles. The modern day stuff with them and their real lives is color, and the manga stuff is straight up black and white. It's completely different style. It's inked differently, and he did the whole thing himself. He's really amazing.
So is it kind of like the Watchmen book, like a comic within a comic within a?
Yeah,
Cool.
it's that same sort of it's a comic they're reading inside the comic.
Yeah, it's cool.
That's always a great concept, and I like when books do it. I like them, but when books do it well, because I've seen books try to do it and it doesn't come across.
I like what's that manga? High Score Girl. I like it. Well, the anime is pretty much the same, but it's like they're playing video games, and then the video games start bleeding into like their real life. So like the video game for Guile will come out and be like, go be a family man. It's pretty cool. It's a cool idea.
Yeah, as a shop owner, dude, I love this whole story you have. And just seeing the folks who come in and buy manga, this is like right in like the zeitgeist, if you will, of the whole. Because I just had someone today who was just talking about fruit baskets and slice of life, and this has very much a slice of life feel.
Yeah.
Which I think is, dude, it's awesome, man. Congrats on that.
Yeah.
And on your resume, I didn't realize that you had all those credits, man. That's cool. So.
Yeah, it's been a long 12 years. Like I said, I don't know. A lot of people are probably aware of the various goings on with Action Lab, but we've done a bunch of stuff with them in the past. Not so much these days, but beyond that, I've done 60 issues of My Little Pony. I've done a little bit of everything. I had my first. The other one we were talking about is I had my first like really more adult comic come out. The first one that I can't be like, hey, that I have to be like, hey, maybe the kids should not read this one, because it's a book I did with Titan, and it's called The Cold Ever After. And I was pitching it as sort of like a queer Arthurian noir. It's about this woman who's the champion of this kingdom. She's the biggest and baddest knight they have, and she gets exiled for having an illicit affair with the queen. So she's kicked out and gone for 15 years, and one day the queen just shows up with her whole royal guard at her doorstep and says, look, the princess is missing. She's supposed to get married in a week, and if she's not here for it, the guy she's supposed to marry is just going to destroy the whole kingdom. There's nothing we can do to stop him. So you're the only person I trust to find her. You're back in. And so, she gets sort of thrown back into this very viper's nest. I hate to use Game of Thrones as a reference point, but it's much, much more Game of Thrones than Lord of the Rings.
I mean, that's definitely not for kids.
No, definitely not. I had to tell Mom, I was like, it has lots of blood and guts and butts in this book. So like, if that's not a thing you want your kids to read, then more power to you.
I also like the fact that you can actually you have a whole thing where if you don't want to read this, you can read that, or if you're because I look at all the stuff you do, and you kind of dip into everything.
Yeah, I mean, I am I write sort of almost neurotically. Like I constantly write. If I don't have something to work on, I'm always, developing another thing. So it's always one thing or the other. It drives my agent absolutely insane. But when I set up at a convention, I'm just like, here's, the My Little Pony on this end. Here's the Cold Ever After and the Vampirella that I've done on this end. And we're just gonna like slowly move from young to old as we go across. Because I don't want the kid to pick up the My Little Pony and then, end up with the Vampirella and be like, Mommy, I'm terrified. But, I've got to find some way to get all that out there.
But it's funny that you say that, because there's an, what is the what do you call them? The older pony lovers, the
bronies.
The bronies. There you go.
Yeah. So
you kind of have a cross, on your stuff, because the bronies will follow you over there.
Oh, absolutely. For all the stuff that people say about bronies, they are extremely loyal, and unlike a lot of like people that come to my table at shows, they spend money, and that is a blessing to any creator at a con, to have people that like come up and will drop some money on stuff. In fact, like I have working on My Little Pony stuff, I've gotten so many wild opportunities for things that I never would have imagined. In fact, I think the same weekend as Brandon's convention, I'm going to be doing a PonyCon in Germany. They invited me out there, and they're like flying me out there and putting me and my wife up for a weekend to go, sign comic books in Germany.
I mean, at its core, it's at its core, My Little Pony's always been medieval fantasy, man. It's just and the new stuff is like, I'm not into it. It's my thing, but I get it. Like those are very fleshed out ponies, man, and it's really I think it's cool. I don't judge anybody,
Yeah, it was something a job I got because at that point I had a 3-year-old at home, and I was doing the stay-at-home dad thing along with writing comic books, and my friend Tony Fleece was drawing for the book. And he's like, do you know anything about My Little Ponies? And I was like, look, I had to watch Dora the Explorer nonstop for like years. So like the first time My Little Pony came on, and they were like fleshed out characters, and it was funny.
Yeah, like, it is
funny.
It's cool. Yeah.
And I was just like, let's watch more of this. Mm-hmm. Let's get away from Dora the Explorer. I don't want to hear about that map again. Let's do the pony stuff.
Same thing. When my daughter started watching My Little Pony, it was such a relief. Especially because they actually had stories. You were actually sitting there going, "Oh, this is a story."
Yeah, I think it's something that parents really appreciate, and I mean something I try to do in my work when I'm writing stuff for kids is like put stuff in there that parents can appreciate. I don't need I'm one of those I don't need those jokes about Twitter in my DreamWorks movies, but nice fleshed out characters that are funny and interesting and quirky and feel real. I'll take that all day long.
Did you guys watch the Dora movie? Because I thought it was pretty good.
I did not.
Yeah, it's so different than the show.
I mean, I'm singing the theme song. Come on, Bomb and Notes. Yeah, I mean, I know you can do this all night. Hey, real quick, Jeremy, can you put me in touch with Tony Fleece? Because I've been trying to get a hold of that guy forever. Tone Rodriguez has been promising me for a year that I would get a hold of him, and it never comes through.
You want to email me? You want to email me afterwards? I'll try and get you in touch with him.
Thank you, sir. And hey, you're also invited down here at some point too. So don't.
Yeah, I'd love to some year that I'm not in Germany for the same weekend. I'll be glad to.
Hey, it's fine. You choose Germany over Jonesboro. I get it.
Yeah, I mean Arkansas, Germany. I mean it's basically the same, right?
It's close, It's in the general direction.
They both have beer.
That's true. We have beer, and I'm part German. So
last time I drove through Arkansas, they tried to drop a tornado on me. So I don't know.
That's what's called hazing. That's how we welcome you to the natural state.
That sounds about right. Yeah. Well, you know how hazing is, folks.
Yeah, it was interesting. You were saying that your book is set in Jonesboro, where you live. Navigating with Me is set in Durham, which is where I live in North Carolina. So it's one of those cool things of like referencing local stuff and then remembering that my artist is Brazilian and that I would have to like just going out and taking pictures of like what the streets look like, what the buildings look like. Because it's like, yeah, I'm sure where he lives in Rio doesn't look anything like Durham. So I'm like, here is what a high school looks like in Durham.
Oh, that's funny. My guy lives in Turkey.
Oh,
So
wow.
I was like, so they're in a mobile home, and he was like, what the heck is a mobile home? And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
hold on a second. Google Pics. This is a trailer, and he was like, oh, that's what that is. Yeah, I feel that. Yeah.
I had a friend of mine be like, people live in those?
Yes.
I was
I mean,
like,
you gotta make meth somewhere. So that's, that's a good place.
That was always an interesting thing working with Marvel is like every once in a while my artist for something with Marvel would be like, all right, and this guy is in Italy. He speaks no English. He's going through a translator. Or, you know, I did a lot of work with Kurihiru, who they're both Japanese, and it's just like all that stuff goes through a translator, and every once in a while something is like not quite what I had in mind. It's like, how did we translate this? Oh, okay, I see where the problem. I can't use colloquialisms in my panel descriptions. Got it.
That's funny. Yeah, it's, you know, and doing like store exclusives, and then this. Dealing with like I've dealt with IDW and all these people, and it's a wonder that any of these books ever get made. Just the process,
definitely.
It's just it can be absolutely frustrating. I don't know what your experience is, Jeremy, but oh man, like
yeah, I mean, I can tell you, like, you know, Princess was like ended up being kind of a big thing. We got nominated for an Eisner or a couple of Eisners and stuff, but like that first issue of that book, my first like comic to actually come out in the direct market. Launched the same week as the New 52. So like,
wow,
it was just like everybody had to order, you know, 10, 20 copies of 52 different books that week. So like we sold, I think, a total of 700 copies to the whole market.
I mean, if it makes you feel any better, all of us that read the New 52, we all regret it.
Everybody regrets the New 52.
Yeah, we went back to the old stuff. They said, all right. You know, so.
Here's a good question. You guys are both like in industry, you know, from two different aspects of this whole thing. What do you think went wrong with the New 52?
I mean, there's so many answers to that question. I think, like, you know, one, it's a lot of things at once. You're trying to launch 52 new titles, which is like, it's a fun, ambitious thing, right? But also, it's just like that does cost money, and it costs a lot of money at that point. I mean, that's, you know, $200 worth of comics in 1 month that somebody would have to buy if they wanted to keep up with it. But then, like, I think if you're doing something that big, like, you gotta commit to it. You can't have Batman and Green Lantern still doing the same thing they were last month, because those are the books that were selling copies.
I mean, it was DC goes through this every time they have a wide line reboot, but I think it was just kind of worse. It's like nobody talks to each other, so the books didn't like match up. Things were different in every book. So and they go through that all the time. It was like you know, like it was like Nightwing was like I was never in the Teen Titans. It was like, oh yeah, I was in the, and then another book said, oh yeah, I was in the Teen Titans. It was just things like that. No, I don't know. It's like there's no like communication. It was like, you know, it was like you had the young Superman. Well, Superman, the old Superman but the old Superman, you had the young Superman, and he acted like a jerk. And it was like, okay, in one book, I think it was Action Comics, it was young Superman, he acted like a jerk. It's like, okay, well, you know, he's young, whatever. And then in the old book, he's not going to be a jerk. And then he was still a jerk. You know, it was just things like that. Like, you know, I don't know. There was no, I don't know. And then there were also things that people liked, and they were like, oh, we don't like it, but I mean, we know more than you do. Like, you know, like with the Superman's marriage, they got rid of that, and they had him dating Wonder Woman, and nobody liked that. Everybody likes. I mean, I think most people are happy with like Superman, you know, dating Lois. Like, you know, do any of us really want to go back to the days where like Clark is like working right next to Lois, like the greatest investigative reporter of all time, is sitting right next to him, can't figure out he's Superman? Do you really want to go back to like no, like, come on, it's been told. So there are things like that. I mean, to their credit, like they did say, all right, you know what, they did go back to the way things were with a DC Rebirth. So for a little while, I think things were good. So at least they did at one point listen to the readers and say, okay, you know what, we tried this, didn't work, but
Brandon?
I mean, I just kind of echo the sentiment both guys. I think it was an ambitious thing. I think they did too much, and with comic book people, man, change isn't always good, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people like what they like, and if you change it, just look at Star Wars, right? They put something out and people lose their mind. I'm a huge Star Wars guy. I love everything Star Wars, pretty much. But man, that whole fan base goes crazy.
Yeah.
And so thankfully there was no social media during New 52 because
oh my God, I can imagine.
Absolutely terrible. But DC though has a habit of this though. They'll reset their universe every time we turn around, like, oh, we're doing another crisis, another reset. So I think they overplayed that card a little too much.
Too much.
Where Marvel does better is more like with the new Ultimates. It's insane how popular it is. It's a whole other universe, all new characters, an older Peter Parker, and that's been a tremendous success for them. And so I think Marvel does the universe resets a little better than DC, though I do love Jim Lee. If he's listening, I love you, Jim.
And I think the big difference with the Ultimates is and I think to some extent this was the case with the original Ultimate launches. It's much more creator driven than New 52, which New 52 is very editorial driven. It was we're just gonna make 52 new books. We don't know what they are yet, but let's go.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think it's just a culture thing. The difference between Marvel and DC. I mean, they both have their problems, but I do think that as far as those two, Marvel does a much better job of letting that go. But I don't know, man. We'll see. I wouldn't be shocked if James Gunn doesn't use some New 52 stuff for his new Gunverse. So
I can see him doing that. Yeah, but
that's not a bad thing at all. I mean,
because he's picking and choosing. Because not all. Folks. Not all 52 was bad. There was some good stuff in there. You just have to look for it.
I mean, it's kind of like when we buy a collection and I look and it's 3 boxes of New 52. I'm like, nope. But the
artwork was great. The artwork was great.
Yeah. Oh yeah, fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, GD and Greg Capullo on Batman. The artwork was great, man. So.
I agree there too. Yeah, because Brandon, I know you saw the whole thing. Because I know, like you're saying, you got all these people, these customers coming in and looking at this stuff and going, "What the freak is?"
I mean, DC though, even I can only speak from my store. I can't speak as a whole, but we're very heavy Marvel and indie in my store. And DC though, they've just now started putting out more lines in the last few years because they did narrow it down to Batman centric, right? Then they took Superman off Earth, and then they had his kid, and all that was cool. But it was very much Harley, Joker, Batman, which they did with their movies, too. You can see how that. So now they've started integrating some new things in, but the stuff they do though is really popular. Even their limited titles, the stuff sells really well. So, and they always get the best artists. I mean, if you're drawing Batman, Batman, Spider-Man, you've reached the top of your career, right? I mean, where else can it go? Maybe Spawn, something, but
all three of them are related, though.
Well, Spawn is basically start your trains with Cape, Batman, Venom, all this stuff. I don't know. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you answered my question.
I got lost.
We geek out here, so if you go on a tangent, it doesn't matter.
Well, I got my business brain going. I was thinking, this is, I don't know.
I agree with you also with the Marvel thing, but I find that Marvel is its own enemy. They'll create this beautiful new universe, and I feel like after a while they go, you know what? This is a lot of work keeping both of these universes up. Let's put them together.
Well, that's coming for sure. They'll be this big event at the end, and then everything will come to the 616. And then they'll absolutely overprint, all the ultimate like they did before. They'll be everything's got an ultimate.
Yeah.
And, so.
I remember the thing was Ultimate. I mean, I didn't jump on the original because I was because the whole thing was because I was already familiar with continuity. The whole thing's okay, this is this is for new people that aren't familiar with continuity. And they saw from the beginning, it's like, well, eventually your continuity is going to get convoluted, and their continuity got convoluted even faster than our continuity, because we met Venom in issue 300. He's in like what? You're introducing him to like issue 14. You're introducing Psylocke in issue like 5. Yeah, your continuity is going to get convoluted even faster. So they had to do a whole reset. They had like ultimatum. They had to do a reset. So. Continuity, I don't know, like I said before, like continuity is not a problem. It's only a problem when you treat it like a problem. I think people will find, like, when I came in the store, I didn't buy Amazing Spider-Man 1 or Superman 1. I got the issue I got, and I was like, oh, this is cool. I'll go read some more issues. I'll read some more back issues. And it was like, so a little yellow box. Hey, go read this issue. Go read that issue. It's only a problem when you treat it a problem, I think.
I think there's arguments to be made for both, because I think, obviously Marvel does great month to month. Like, I love, reading that in continuity Marvel stuff. I love working in the in continuity Marvel stuff when I have. But also, like, it's hard to deny that DC has the most like trade sales. That they have books that like are evergreen.
Right? Yeah.
Watchmen, for better or for worse, is never going out of print.
No.
There's no
Alan
yeah. X-Men doesn't have, or Marvel doesn't have a Dark Knight Returns. Like, there's no Batman Year One on the Marvel side. And as much as like I love my heavy dense continuity, just being able to pick up Batman Year One and get one of like the for everything else Frank Miller has done, one of the best stories told in comics with some of the best art ever accompanying that story is just like, that's killer. I mean, I feel like the closest Marvel has ever gotten is Born Again, the Daredevil story, and that's still like kind of steeped in continuity.
Yeah.
But it's so funny because, like, if you look at the old stuff, like the X-Men stuff, because as soon as you say bigger books, I think about the X-Men stuff, the Phoenix Saga, all those, those stories, because that's why they keep putting them in the movies, is because people know them and they can be pulled out of their continuity and read separately, because that's how it was back then. I know you remember, Brandon, where we would pick up a comic, and like if Tony was saying, you didn't have to pick up issue 1. You could pick up issue 45 and still know what the hell was going on. I feel like later on they started to go, oh, we're not going to tell you what's going on, and then they go, why aren't people buying these books? And I'm like, well, that's because you're throwing them in the middle of a story. And before, what you used to do was like, oh, as you read the book, they go, check out issue 45 and you'll know what we're talking about.
Well, there was in that sense too, like they sold like the Dark Phoenix Saga as a trade, just the Dark Phoenix Saga. There's a whole bunch of comics that happened before she becomes Dark Phoenix, but it reads like you don't feel like you're lost. You don't feel like you miss anything. You feel like you read one comic, you got a full story out of that one issue, and they don't really make content. It's too steeped into continuity. It's like.
Well, the big push now, and the problem with this is getting back issues ordered directly from the publisher, because once you hit a certain number, they're cutting that off because they're about to announce a trade paperback or whatever. And so, if you come in on issue 8 or 9 of, say, some new run and there's only 12, well, they're not getting those now because that trade's coming out in 4 or 5 months whenever the deal's over. And so that's an issue.
Yes,
unintended, yeah. But back to
we start with a new number 1, which is so much fun when you're putting away your comics when you have like 4 number 1s and you don't know.
Oh, well, I mean, that's all another thing too, right? The variant market, like people go nuts over artists. There's a lot of artists. I love it, and I've got boxes of comics here that I've never read. I just love the cover art.
Yep,
that's great,
Yeah, same here. You want to say something else, Brandon?
Yeah, I mean, Jeremy's right though. I mean, who has the most iconic story arcs in the history of comic books? It's Batman. I mean, there's nobody else.
And even the writers.
What's that?
Even the writers on Batman, because as soon as I hear Batman, I think Chuck Dixon. So,
all those guys, right? And then, like I said, you said Dark Knight Returns. You got The Killing Joke, Death in the Family. I mean, there's so much that Batman has. But Marvel's, go back to Marvel. Now their push is the omnibus, right? That's what they're putting out. The $125 hardcover coffee table deals. They look great, but not everybody $5 comic, $125 omnibus.
My whole thing is like I hear it all the time. The industry itself keeps going, we don't like the floppies. What we want to do is be in Barnes and Nobles.
Which is exactly what they don't need to do for your LCS, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we have a Barnes and Noble here, but they carry trades, but we don't really sell a lot of trades. We sell a lot of single issues, and get a lot of comics graded, and do this normal stuff. But I'm sure that somewhere out there, in some comic shop, that trades are a big deal. I don't see it here, but that I can only speak for my place.
And that's because they keep trying to go away from the floppy. But I feel like the floppy is something that is always going to be around because people are going to want it. And I feel like indies understand that. You guys understand that these floppies or these certain types of comics that they're going to do okay, even if you're just doing a small run of something. I feel like the days of the long runs are gone, and that's partially to blame on Marvel and DC because they constantly restarting the books.
Yeah.
Well, it's the the laws of attrition, whatever, where it falls off and you have to have a number one to bring them back, even though it's the same volume. It's just a whole new creative team. But the shorter runs are better stories. It's like shorter television series to me. So much better. The Sopranos started all that, and I thought it's better TV. Trades are very expensive to print, so you don't have a lot of indie companies doing trades because it's just so costly. And that's why you see them kickstart those because they're not cheap.
And it takes them a while to build up to that point.
Yeah, I mean, I would say single issues are largely the same as far as like cost, because there's always this debate with people about like, oh, is a comic worth $4? Is a comic worth $5? It's like, well, I mean, it's worth a lot more than that. The amount of like effort and time and what it costs to get those glossy ass pages you love so much, like that stuff costs money, and it costs more now than it used to. So like it does cost that much. I understand the like not wanting to pay $5 for something you're done with in 10 minutes, but like I don't know, it's a trade-off there, and I think that's where we're starting to see, I think, a lot of the not just the manga, but also stuff that is directed towards younger audiences come in the trade market, printing on much grainier paper. Yeah.
See, and it's so funny because that's what we grew up with. We grew up with the grainier paper, and it was cheaper to get. And every once in a while, I go, "Can't you just print a couple of those books on that paper?" At least so that certain books can be a certain price, so the kids can get them. Because
Brian Hitchart doesn't look quite as shiny on the grain paper, but like it is much cheaper. It goes up like a matchstick, but it's
like this. I know.
A different question. Yeah,
believe me. Every time I look at my books,
you ever go look at your old comics, even when they're bagged and boarded? Man, they start turning yellow. Like it just it doesn't hold up.
Yeah. I thought about trying to sell those, the boards that have the print comic.
Yeah.
Like maybe I could sell those in the store, like exclusive backer board. I don't know. I'm gonna try it. I'll let you know.
That's a good idea. Let us know how that works.
Just print a whole comic on backer boards.
That'd be kind of cool.
I think we were, of course, a commercial.
Hey, we got a free ebook. Who's gonna get it? Is this a contest?
Let's see. I was looking for something over here. I think I was on the other page. There it goes. There we go. You were talking about this earlier, and I don't think you got a chance to dive into it too much. So let us know what this is.
So Princess is the first book I launched. It's about a princess who's locked in a tower by her evil parents, decides to rescue herself instead of waiting around to be saved.
I like it.
Yeah, it's it's an easy concept to explain. Was writing it for I think 10 years. It's on hold right now because it was published through Action Lab. For anybody who doesn't know, Action Lab is terrible at doing everything that they should be doing as a publisher, like paying people and printing books and making sure they get to stores. The things you would want a publisher to do, pay you and make comics. They're bad at those things. So we're in the process right now of everybody who is, or a lot of people who are with Action Lab are continuing to be in a lawsuit with Action Lab about getting their rights back to their books because Action Lab failed to do any part of their contract to a reasonable extent. So that's an ongoing dilemma. But there are 9 volumes of that, and the 9 volumes of sort of the spinoff to that, Raven the Pirate Princess, which are all sort of kids and YA books for a pretty wide audience. So that's where I've been doing a lot of my writing, is for kids, especially younger and female kids. There's a lot of there weren't a lot of books out there for girls when I started writing. And I have 2 daughters of my own and wanted to be able to share comics with them. So Princeless was sort of where that started, and that's been sort of like my guide in a lot of stuff I write, is the stuff that I'm looking for, that I want to be out there. So like that, and then had a book come out last year, which is on here if you flip through a couple of pages there.
I'll start looking when you keep talking.
There's a book called The Dog Night, which
I was going to ask you about that because it looks really cool.
Yeah, it's our first book of sort of an ongoing story we're doing with Macmillan, and it's really fun because it's about a non-binary middle schooler who gets recruited by a group of magical dogs to help them save the world. So that's
when that
up front there, Frankie.
I love when you get recruited to be the hero you are.
Yeah, because dogs are looking for a human to help them out, because they've got a lot of special powers, but there's some things dogs can't do, like open doors. So you gotta have a human to help out now and then. So this first volume is about Frankie getting recruited and having to go through a series of trials that the dogs are putting them through to make sure that they share all the great values that the dogs care about, like loyalty and honesty and sense of smell. So
I love what you've been putting together, and you're right. Like for a long time, if you had a daughter, you'd have to figure out what to get them to read, if they could read anything.
Yeah, I mean, I thinking about the New 52, like they put out so many books at the same time, and almost none of them were aimed for kids, and even fewer of them for female kids. So even like I enjoyed elements of like their Wonder Woman. The art is really great on the New 52 Wonder Woman, even if the story wasn't always my thing. But like, there was nothing that wasn't aimed for kids. There was no Wonder Woman book coming out that kids could read. No X-Men book coming out that was aimed for kids. So like, that was something that I wanted to be able to share comics with my daughters, and that was sort of my big motivating factor there, and continues to be like, I want to share comics with more people, and have people, like, there's nothing cooler than being at a convention and having people come up and say like, hey, I've read this book that you wrote. It's a huge inspiration to me. I'm at the point now where there's this weird thing that happens because I've been doing this for 12 years, where like full-grown adult women come up to my table and say like, oh, Princeless, I love that when I was a little girl. I'm like, you so old. And that, I mean, that's a weird part of that thing. But like, I used to brag to friends of mine that had been, working at Marvel and DC for a long time, that it's like, I have way cooler like people come to my table than they do. Like, I have 8-year-olds who are psyched out of their mind about meeting me because I wrote, an issue of My Little Pony or Princeless or something, and they have one guy that plops 80 issues of The Flash on their table and is like, sign all of these.
I know that. I've seen that.
Yeah.
Oh, I've seen that so many times.
When they come up with the rolling cart and they pull out the long box. Ooh,
yeah, I've seen that one.
That's when you know you're in trouble.
I have a couple of those friends actually. Yeah, they'll go to the conventions. They'll find the old guys, because some of the conventions will have like Chris Claremont or the guys, and they'll come with their huge box, and then they'll be like at the table going, all right, look, man, we can do a couple of these, but we have all these other people that need
Yeah, poor Claremont. I was sitting next to Gail Simone at New York Comic Con one year, and like he came in, like sat behind Gail's table and was talking to her like halfway behind a banner, because even at her table, like people were like, Chris Claremont. It's like, no, I'm not at my table. Leave me alone. Stop.
Oh my God, I've seen Chris so many times, and it always bugs me out because, you know, a lot of people go, who the hell's that? But at the same time, you got all these people that come looking for him.
He's talking to him, man. That's people stop to talk to him, and he'll just go on and not care about anyone on the line. That's not the number. That sounds like
there's never been a man who had so much to say about comics that looked so little like he wanted to be at the comic convention.
All the time. There's been a couple times where I'm gonna go, let me go talk to him, and then he's sitting there like, I'm like, you know what?
Yeah, once he does these right here, the glasses, you're in there for a 4-hour conversation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he'll just stare at your book, and you know how he talks, you know, Chris. And you don't want to be that guy in line that gets him talking, because then you look at the line behind you, you're like, I'm sorry, I can't make it.
I've seen that.
Just like, give him up. You're like, yeah. So Chris is
and a slow talker too, so he'll take hello, how are you doing? It's like very slow, so you're at that line waiting, like, oh, come on.
And it's messed up because you want to pick Chris's brain because he's done some amazing things, man. Oh, but you're right.
A couple of months ago, he was at a convention and it was late Friday. His flight got in late, and he said so many things that you know today that would outrage the internet and people get you like canceled. He just didn't care. And it's like Chris Claremont. What are you gonna do? You can't cancel Chris Claremont. He doesn't care. So he's cool.
Oh man! Oh, I was going to get back to something because you mentioned it, Brandon. The whole Star Wars thing. I feel like one of the issues is that everybody wants to move forward. They want to move on to the next generation. But I feel like they don't respect the generation where all this stuff is coming from. They're so busy moving forward that instead of giving some respect to the older generation and the older collectors, what they do is like, we're just going to start to do something else. And I feel like that's what they did with Star Wars. They really didn't care about the older generation who was watching Star Wars. They were like, okay, we want to do something new. I'm like, so do something new. Don't mess with our characters. You know, just do something new. You didn't have to do the last 3 movies. You know, you could have started a whole other Star Wars thing. You know, and because you know, technically speaking, Lucas left it in a good place. So you know, as much as we wanted to see the last 3 movies, I would have rather they have started something new instead of try to do their version of what Lucas thought was going to happen. And I feel like that's what happens with comics and everything, is that they're so busy trying to move forward that they forget to respect where the story is coming from, or the story itself. You know, as writers, we know that it's just not, you move on. Stuff happens and you move on. The hero's journey goes a certain way, and that's how it happens. You can't disrupt the hero's journey and then go, why aren't people watching this? Why aren't people buying this?
I mean, like there are ways to do it. We've seen them, like if you watch Cobra Kai, like Cobra Kai is a great way to, like, hey man, we're gonna honor the old fans, give you what you want. We're gonna introduce a whole bunch of new characters. Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire, it wasn't the best one, but they did it too, at least with Afterlife. They're like, hey man, we're gonna respect the old fans. We're gonna, you know, and we're gonna introduce you to some new stuff. It's like, it's like passing the baton. You know, that's the way you do it. You know, but it's not. But it just seems like a lot of they do. Instead of like, no, forget that stuff. Forget that Luke. Han Solo's dead. Oh, forget that stuff. No, look at these new characters. Like, that's not how you do it. You know, so there are ways to do it. You know, I think.
Well, let me just say this. I love the sequel trilogy, and The Last Jedi is my favorite of the 3. So let me just put that out there and make everybody angry. That Luke is so relatable. It's insane. I was watching this movie and I was like, this guy is me right here. Like, this makes so much sense because, he echoed so much of his dad in the Clone Wars.
He does.
And so
I have friends that love that movie, so you're not.
I love it. I mean, I like all 3, but The Last Jedi is the one that I watch the most. So take that.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny that you say that, though, because I've gotten into arguments with people because I don't really care. So I've gotten into arguments with people when it comes to that Luke, And they're like, oh, that's not what he would have done. And I'm like, but wait a minute, because the book that everybody likes, Heir to the Empire, you know, that whole thing, he goes to the dark side, and then he comes back. So, you know, I'm sitting there going, hey, wait a minute. But in that book, the one that you guys wanted to be made into the movie, he's actually goes to the dark side and he comes back. So how can you say, you know, that this isn't Luke over here, but you love that book over there?
Well, I think that's part of it too. Like everyone was the people that read the EU were so invested in those stories. Yeah. And then when Lucasfilms decided to make that not canon and start over, you know, a lot of people got mad about it, and I was kind of like, you can still read the books. Like, who cares, right? I want, like, that's what I'm excited about the Acolyte. It's finally not a Skywalker story; it's something else.
Yep.
And so, but I mean, I get what you guys are saying. And that's, you know, I respect that. Like, I don't really care if people don't like it. It's just at this point, I'm just like, okay, I like it. Okay, cool.
See,
I'm on the same page as like Last Jedi is my favorite of those three movies.
I knew Jeremy was awesome.
I mean, I feel like Force Awakens is fine. It's fine in the same way New Hope would have been fine if you had actually seen the previous movies beforehand. Like,
exactly.
It's self-contained. It does what it's there to do. It introduces the characters it gets out. And I mean, I feel like that was what people wanted, is more of the same, but just a different group of guys. And there's a lot of underlying issues with the people in the fandom about certain people in the fandom about certain types of characters that are in there. Totally. And that's fine. Like, I understand, like, you know, the worst argument in all of this to me is the people that hate Rey. Because it's like, oh, she just came out of nowhere. She was a nobody that just suddenly has all these powers. And I was like, did you see A New Hope? Like, because Luke is nobody. He is a farmer. He is a bad farmer. He's a bad assistant to a farmer. Yeah. You got this much training. He didn't know what he was doing. He screwed everything possible up. And like you can't like Luke and champion that story and hate Rey. Like, I understand not necessarily liking the different visions between, you know, going through different directors and different writers between
that's like what I don't like. Like, I didn't like Last Jedi, that, you know, that they like kind of like remove the mysticism out of it. They remove like the fate, destiny. They kind of like took all that stuff. Like, no, Rey, you're nobody. You're not related to anybody. You're nothing.
See, like,
I didn't like it, and then like, you know, like you're not, you know, and then I didn't like it, but then at least, you know, stick to your guns. Then in the next one, he's like, no, you're a Palpatine. I'm like, huh?
I didn't like that shift. I liked you're nobody.
You know, that's what you're gonna do. That's fine, and you know, because there is a coolness about that. You know, there's a coolness about. I remember like the Buffy the Vampire Slayer did this. I think it was cool that they had a person just wake up and say, you know what, I'm a Slayer. Like, I wasn't Destiny. I'm called. You know what, I'm just a Slayer. I think that's cool. There's a good story there, but you know, stick to. But the Slayer didn't come out later on and say it was a male. It was a male in the story that he just said, you know what, I'm the Slayer. I feel like the Slayer. You know, I'm not called or anything. It's not magic. That's a good story, I think. But you stick to your guns. They didn't come out later and said, oh, no, forget that. My father was the greatest Slayer of all time. No.
I mean, I will say 100 times out of 100, I will take my parents were nobody special. I'm nobody special. I just have powers too. My mom was miraculously impregnated by the Force. That sucks. That story sucks. And you can tell it sucks by how little attention the movies actually pay to it once they get going. They're like, he's a savior of the Force. He doesn't have a dad. Anyway, but
that was dropped in a hurry.
Dropped it, right away.
Charles Soule, if you read that run of his where it picks up right after Revenge of the Sith, Palpatine uses that mythology to further Anakin into the Vader role. You know, that he formed him in his womb on that, but it was all a lie. Now, some fans were like, that's, you know, that was like supposed to be true. And Soule's like, no, it's a lie of the dark side to keep Anakin in line, you know, because he never was really sold on that, right? He was just trying to protect the people he loved. So, but yeah, I mean, it's the whole like mythos of like Jesus and all this kind of stuff that was put in there. It was, you know, quickly let go.
Yeah, I mean, well, even then, the alternative at that point is Qui-Gon is very bad at his job. Like Qui-Gon's a very bad Jedi Knight. If that's the case, and he's like, well, it's weird. He does seem to have a lot of it. It couldn't possibly be that he had a dad. Definitely immaculate conception.
Well, and the prequels are my least favorite of all the movies. So
yeah.
And I don't really want to talk bad about them. I mean, I like Attack of the Clones, Natalie Portman in a white dress, of course, and then the Jedi fighting are cool. There's a lot of good things about them, but overall, I've only seen them 3 times, and that's enough. Clone Wars is awesome. I love Clone Wars so much.
Always pisses me off with Star Wars where they go, you like a character and they go, oh, this is cool, and they kill him off. You're like, what the hell, man?
Yeah.
I know what it is. I know they're like, oh, we're writing this, and we didn't think this character would be that popular.
Like the new Disney Plus stuff is good for that. They'll bring out a character from the expanded universe. Like, hey, look, this character in the expanded universe. Yay, we killed him.
Have you seen the trailer for the new Lego Star Wars where everything's mashed up and you got Darth Jar Jar?
I've been waiting for that. That was the rumor. That's the storyline that was supposed to happen.
It's at the end of this new Lego movie where the universe collapses and then reforms, and they've got like Ewok bounty hunters. It's hilarious.
Oh, I love that.
And Jar Jar comes out and is like, "I'm Misa gonna hurt you" or something like that. And he has you gotta watch it. It's so
bad. That Lego Star Wars stuff is funny, man. Whenever it comes out, it's hilarious.
I've really been a fan of the stuff that has gotten away from the Star Wars saga side of things. Like I literally just finished Andor like 2 nights ago.
That was pretty good.
I mean, unfortunately, we know what's going to happen at the end of that story because that's where we pick him up in the movies. But like that series is so good, and The Mandalorian.
I was in this fight since I was 6 years old. No, you weren't. That's all the show. No, you weren't. I mean.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I like it.
You were in the fight. All right.
Sure. Yeah.
It's just the whole thing. But as a writer, that's when I sit there going. The only time I hate something is when I'm like, okay, who the hell's writing this thing? And I feel with me in the last trilogy, it's exactly what Tony's saying. It's like you're special first movie, you're not special second movie. Oh, that's right, you're still special third movie. I'm like, dudes, pick a battle. Because if you take the movies by themselves, they're pretty decent. As long as you're not putting the continuity together, you're like, okay, this makes sense. If you look at this movie, you go, this makes sense. If you look at this movie, this makes sense. If you look at the last movie, I don't know about the last movie.
Yeah, it's the real problem with continuity. Like, any chain is only strong as its weakest link.
All right, folks. Of course, we were geeking out here all today. Let's get back to telling the people who you are, guys. Yes, let's do the wrap up right now. Jeremy, why don't you start? Go for it.
Yeah. So my name is Jeremy Whitley. You can find me on my website at jeremywhittley.com. I am on Blue Sky and Tumblr at Jeremy Whitley, and Twitter and Instagram at jrome58. I have my own podcast where we watch scary movies and then talk about the politics of them, called Progressively Horrified. So if you want to overthink scary movies with us, we have a new episode that comes out every Friday, and you can get that wherever you're listening to podcasts. So check that out for sure. And Navigating with You comes out in August. It is available for pre-order on Simon & Schuster's website right now.
Right there, as you can see right there, I put the link in the comment section over here, so make it easier for you guys to click on it and go buy stuff or go support stuff, like our friend Brandon's about to talk about.
Well, first of all, that podcast sounds awesome, dude. So
it does sound like a fire. We were talking about it in the green room, and I was like, ooh.
I mean, you had me at horror movies and the politics of horror movies. I'm like, okay, let's do it. Anyway, this is about me now, Jeremy. Hold on. So I do have a new comic book coming out through Black Box called The Evil That Men Do. It is not Charles Bronson. It has nothing to do with that movie, which I've never seen. It's very much not related to that. So appreciate asking. I've been asked a many times. Right now we're in pre-launch, so we need your help. We need you to sign up to get notified. through the Kickstarter link. It's really easy. You just hit that button, and if you don't have a Kickstarter, you set it up. I think you can log in through Google or whatever phone you have. If you have an Apple, probably take you a few more steps.
Yeah, if you're on Facebook, it'll ask you to sign in with Facebook. If you're on Google, it'll ask you to sign in with Google. It'll make it easier to you because they want you to sign.
Yeah, and if you sign up, there's no obligation to commit to a tier, though. I would really appreciate you do that.
Exactly.
But it really helps. It helps me out and Black Box getting closer to that launch date. I'm very excited about it. It's a 5-book volume. I actually have a 3-volume story. So to get that out, obviously we need everyone to go there and be a part of this. Also have a comic book shop in Jonesboro, Arkansas, B&B Collections, and a Nerds Assemble convention. We'll have our 4th annual one. There's a website. You can go. It's Jonesboro, Arkansas, comicstore.com. Jonesboro, Arkansas, comicstore.com. I have to say it slow because it's a lot. You can go there, and everything you need is at the top. You can see the tabs. You can sign up for a pull list, and we mail those out. We're also on eBay. What did I miss? What did I miss, guys? What did I miss?
Well, there's the dates for your Nerds Assemble right there. Like I said, I love the name. It sounds fantastic. Folks, you guys are over there. Check it out. July 27th to July 28th. Putting to con together is not easy.
No, we have quite a team that does that. It's not a one-person job, that's for sure. It's not a one-person job if you want to live very long, because it's there's so much. So, but I mean, we appreciate everybody that does that. I appreciate you having me on, and make sure if you go to the website, click on the new Kickstarter option, do the save, notify me, come to the con. Hopefully I'll have the books out by then. Demetrius, I love you. And
as you guys saw in the beginning when we played the video, it's a really nice video. You should check it out. Wait, well, you know what? I'll play it again. Hold on.
Play it again, Sammy. Hey, can I say something real quick?
Go for it.
Jeremy. Oh, sorry. The splash page there where he's pulling the guy through the window, that's my whole nod to Friday the 13th. Because the one guy he's grabbing is holding the machete, and he's pulling him through the window just like in final chapter or whatever. I mean, I love Friday the 13th so much. So I try to include so many horror elements in there. So, yes, I'll be on your podcast.
Jeremy, I think all of us are going, so when can we be on your podcast?
Hey, I'm booked for a little while, but I'd be happy to have any of y'all on once we start setting stuff up again.
And of course, you guys are more than welcome because you guys are geeked out hard with us here at Apple Bites. And we love geeking out. So, one of the things that I try to do here is make the feeling like you are talking across that convention table, because there's no other conversation like that, having the one you have at cons when you're sitting there talking across the table. Love that.
Absolutely.
That's what I try to do with this show. All right, folks, as you can see in the comment section, both projects are right there, making it easier for you to just click and go check it out. Jeremy, Brandon, you guys are more than welcome on the show anytime you want. Brandon, you're going to be starting this off again. As soon as you're ready to go, just come back on the show.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, appreciate it. Hey, Tony, nice to meet you. We didn't get to talk, but we just disagreed on Star Wars. It's cool, man. I forgive you.
No, it's fine, dude. Dude, I have a friend who I respect a lot. He'll say this Last Jedi is the greatest movie of all time. I was like, all right, man.
All right.
I think if you look at Last Jedi and when it stands by itself, like I was saying before, it's a good movie. But if you're looking at The Force Awakens, you're like, what the freak happened? Because as you're sitting there watching both of the movies, you're like, wait, they set all the stuff up here in Force Awakens. None of that is happening over here in the last.
I love how it said that, and you guys started going off again. See,
Yeah.
I took my power back.
All the time. And it's funny because people want me to hate the movies. I'm like, no, I don't hate the movies. But again, I'm not one of those diehard Star Wars guys. So
Yeah, I can't say I'm a diehard Star Wars guy either. I know. Like when I was a kid, my parents wouldn't let me see those movies. They thought for some. I think there was some scary movie that I saw that like traumatized and gave me nightmares. They won't let me see anything. So but like my brother would buy the toys, and then he would give me like all the toys he didn't want. He would give me, and I thought my red R2D2 was cool. And then when I went to see the movie, he's in it for like 1 second. I was like, what the heck is this? Like, I thought my little robot with the little arms was like in Star Wars for like 1 second. I was like, oh boy.
Listen, I only hate one movie in the world.
The Mandalorian, my red R2D2 came out. It was like, yeah. I was the one that had that toy.
I only hate one movie, and it's the M. Night Shyamalan film Old. So, anything else is fine compared to that.
After M. Night let me down, I was like, I'm not watching any more of your movies. And he has that new movie right now coming out, and I'm like, no, you're not tricking me. I'm like, nope, you're not tricking me. Let's see, folks. Oh, that's right. Here we go. Matta couldn't be here today, but I'm going to show off her stuff here because it's going on right now. It is Sacrimony. You guys should go check out Sacrimony. Matta does all the work herself. She is the artist, the writer, the inker, the letterer. She does everything by herself, and it is an amazing, beautiful, epic piece that you guys all need to check out if you like your fantasy and gods and all the beautiful stuff that comes along with fantasy. You should check this out. But it's more of a slice of life god piece. If you want to look at it that way, and how gods are more like us than, or we are more like them. So you should go check it out.
It funded right on the show. So
yeah,
big apple boom.
There's a whole philosophical conversation about who made who here, but we'll not go. Last Jedi is amazing. Anyway, go ahead. What were you saying?
Go ahead, folks. Go check it out. Matta's doing pretty well. She has funded. She's at 3,752, 133 backers. She's trying to get to 150 backers. Come on, we can get her there. She still got 11 days to go. I think we can get her to 5,000. Come on, folks. Come on. I will tell you this, like I always tell you, nobody makes any money off of Kickstarter unless you're one of the big companies. And any indie artists or creators trying to do is create their next book, because that's where the money's going to go. Any extra money they have is going to go into the next book.
Pretty much.
All these indies with their Kickstarters, because it's also a good way to send DC and Marvel a message that we want some good books. Because they will do something once they go, hey, people are buying this stuff. Any last words, Jeremy, Brendan?
Support indie creators always.
See, he said it. and of course, support your local comic store, Brandon, because we think that they are important. They're gonna be important. They're still important. And like we say, once you become part of that community, we should just all support each other. And what we like to say here on Bit and Apple is we help each other rise.
And if you don't have an LCS, we can be your LCS. We do that for people all over the country, not just here we're in the state of Arkansas. We actually go north, south, east, and west. Puerto Rico, Hawaii.
We ship everywhere.
That's the only places, right, that we mail. I'm just kidding.
I feel like this is thinking, wishful thinking. I want to be in Puerto Rico. I want to be in Hawaii. That sounds good.
I mean, I wish I was in Key West right now. I love Key West so much. But
Key West is good too.
Yeah, Key West.
All right, folks. On this show, when the show ends, we do this other thing where I press this button and this happens. Marvel